A bad husband sold his share of the house and left with his mistress. When he returned to confront his ex-wife, he was taken aback to find her there. Lisette had woken up early that morning, feeling a sense of unease in her chest that she couldn't shake. Dash was no longer beside her as he usually was. She got up slowly, burdened by the worry weighing on her heart. The house was quiet, a silence that had become all too familiar over the past few months. Dash had been absent more often, and his excuses about working late had begun to feel empty. As she prepared breakfast, Lisette thought about the conversation she had intended to have with him. They had been saving for an apartment, a place that would be their home, and Lisette wanted to ensure it was registered in both their names. They had contributed equally, and that needed to be reflected. Dash entered the kitchen, his face serious and avoiding her gaze. Lisette took a deep breath, feeling the knot in her stomach tighten. "Dash, we need to talk," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Dash stopped, staring at the coffee she had poured for him, as if it could somehow prevent the conversation about the apartment. "I think we should have it registered in both our names," Lisette replied. Finally, Dash looked up, his expression barely concealing his irritation. "I don't see why we should complicate things, Lisette. We're a family, everything belongs to both of us anyway." Lisette felt a surge of frustration, but also a determination she hadn't experienced before. "That's exactly why, Dash. We've both contributed financially, and it's only fair that it's in both our names." Dash frowned, clearly annoyed by Lisette's insistence. He wasn't accustomed to her challenging him like this. "Traditionally, the husband is the owner of the home," he said, trying to sound final. "There's no need to make this more complicated." Lisette took a deep breath, striving to remain calm. She refused to let outdated traditions dictate her life. "We live in a modern era of equal rights. If it really doesn't matter, then it should be registered in both our names. Or is there something else you don't want me to know?" Dash fell silent for a moment, his irritation shifting to a mix of surprise and annoyance. He hadn't anticipated this resistance from Lisette, and it was evident he didn't know how to respond. "The extra costs of registering the property in both our names are unnecessary," he finally said, searching for an argument to dissuade her. Lisette looked him directly in the eyes, sensing this was a pivotal moment. "We can cut other expenses, like your beer consumption, for example." Dash opened his mouth to reply, but found himself at a loss for words. He was taken aback by Lisette's firmness. This wasn't the behavior he was used to from her, and the feeling of losing control unsettled him. "I don't understand why you're suddenly acting this way, Lisette," he said, his voice softer but heavy with frustration. "I'm tired of being treated like I don't have a voice in our decisions, Dash. It's time for things to change," she responded, feeling a mix of fear and liberation. Dash looked at Lisette with confusion and anger. He seemed to want to say more but held back. He mumbled something about discussing it later and left the kitchen, leaving her alone with her thoughts. That night, as she prepared for bed, Lisette reflected on their conversation. She knew this was just the beginning of a challenging journey, but she was determined to move forward despite her fears. A renewed sense of hope filled her as she lay down, feeling an unexpected calm. She had taken an important step toward equality in her marriage, and the realization of her inner strength gave her the courage to face whatever lay ahead. Although she understood the path would be difficult, she was ready to walk it. Dash slept fitfully, troubled by the events of the night, while Lisette dreamed of a future where her voice would be acknowledged and respected. She knew the battle was just beginning, but she was prepared to fight for what she deserved. The next day, Lisette woke up again with that unsettling feeling in her chest. She realized that despite their discussions, Dash hadn't changed his ways. His nightly absences continued, and his emotional distance seemed to widen. Determined to uncover the truth, Lisette began to closely monitor Dash's finances and behavior. One morning, while reviewing the bank statements, something caught her eye. Frequent transactions to a person she didn't recognize, Laura. A chill ran down her spine. She knew she needed to dig deeper before confronting Dash, so she decided to follow the money trail. In the days that followed, Lisette felt as if she were in a fog, her mind consumed by the possibility of Dash's infidelity. Finally, one afternoon, after reviewing the statements again, she decided she had enough. She needed answers, and she needed them now. That night, when Dash came home later than usual, Lisette was waiting for him in the living room, the documents spread out on the coffee table. Dash looked at her first with surprise, then with a mix of annoyance and guilt. "What is all this, Lisette?" he asked, trying to maintain his composure. Lisette stared at him, feeling anger and sadness swirling within her. "Explain these transactions to me, Dash. Who is Laura?" Dash blinked, clearly caught off guard. He hesitated before responding. "She's just a friend. It's not what you think, Lisette." Lisette felt rage bubbling beneath the surface. "A friend? Is she a friend to whom you've been regularly transferring money? A friend for whom you've been absent every night?" Dash struggled to respond, the words caught in his throat. Lisette seized the moment of silence. "I'm tired of your excuses, Dash. I want the truth. Are you cheating on me?" Dash took a deep breath, closing his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his gaze was filled with a mix of resignation and defiance. "Yes, Lisette. Laura is someone I've been seeing. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of us." The confession hit Lisette like a hammer, shattering her hopes and fears in one blow. Tears welled in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She didn't want to show weakness at this critical moment. "How could you, Dash? After everything we've been through, after all I've sacrificed for us?" Dash didn't look at her, his attention fixed on an indistinct spot on the carpet. "This isn't working, Lisette. I want you to leave the apartment. I want to start over with Laura." Lisette stood her ground, prepared for this moment. "I'm not going anywhere, Dash. This apartment is as much mine as it is yours. You can't just throw me out." Dash finally looked up, frustration and anger evident in his gaze. "And what do you plan to do, fight me for every inch?" Lisette nodded, determination shining in her eyes. "If necessary, yes. I'm not going to let you manipulate me anymore. I won't allow you to destroy what we've built just because you found a new distraction." The confrontation ended with Dash storming out of the room, leaving her alone with her thoughts. Lisette sat on the sofa, feeling a mix of relief and pain. She had stood up to Dash, and although things were far from resolved, she felt she had regained some control over her life. That night, as she lay alone in bed, Lisette thought about the future. About the next steps. She understood that challenges lay ahead, but she also recognized her own strength to confront them. With Sue's encouragement and her own resolve, she was prepared to stand up for what was right. The dawn brought fresh clarity. Lisette realized there was still much to tackle, yet she felt more determined than ever not to let her circumstances defeat her. She was ready to fight for her dignity, her home, and most importantly, for herself. The days after the confrontation were filled with tension and silence in the house. Dash and Lisette hardly spoke, and when they did, their words were sharp and laced with resentment. Lisette knew this situation couldn't persist, but she was unwilling to back down. One afternoon, as she was preparing dinner, Dash entered the kitchen with a serious look on his face. She could sense a shift in him. A decision had been made. "Lisette, we need to talk," Dash said, his tone leaving no room for disagreement. Lisette turned to face him, her heart racing with anxiety. Dash took a deep breath before continuing. "About us, about what's going to happen now." Lisette set down her utensils and crossed her arms, bracing herself for the worst. "I'm listening." "We can't keep living like this," Dash began, his voice tense. "I've made a decision. I want you to move out of the apartment." The words struck Lisette like a slap, but she stood firm. "I already told you I'm not leaving. This apartment is as much mine as it is yours." "You can't stay here, Lisette. It's not healthy for either of us. I've been seeing Laura, and I want to move forward with her." Anger and sadness surged within Lisette, but so did a renewed determination. "So you just want to get rid of me as if I meant nothing," she said, her voice shaking with indignation. "I won't allow that, Dash. You can't throw me out of my own home." Dash frowned, clearly frustrated. "And what do you suggest we do then? We can't keep living together." Lizette looked him straight in the eye, her gaze resolute. "If you want to be with Laura so much, you can move in with her. I'm not going anywhere." Dash appeared taken aback by her suggestion, as if he had never considered that option. "What about the apartment?" he asked, trying to maintain his authority. "We can sell it," Lizette replied. "We'll split whatever we get and move on with our lives separately." Dash seemed to ponder this for a moment before slowly nodding. "Fine, we'll sell it. But I want you to know that I'm not going to make this easy for you." "I never thought you would," she replied coldly. The following weeks were a whirlwind of emotions and preparations. Lizette focused on organizing the details of the apartment sale while trying to maintain a sense of normalcy in her daily life. Meanwhile, Dash began spending more time away from the house, likely with Laura. One afternoon, while Lizette was sorting through some documents in the living room, she received a call from her real estate agent. "Lizette, I have good news," the agent said. "I found a buyer for Dash's half of the apartment." "Really?" Lizette responded, feeling a mix of relief and curiosity. "Who is it?" "It's a man named Luke. He seems to be someone from your past." Lizette's heart skipped a beat. Luke had been her high school classmate, a close friend who had always shown interest in her. The thought of him being the buyer filled her with unexpected hope. "Thank you for letting me know," Lizette said to the agent. "I'll be waiting for more details." That night, Lizette reflected on the situation. The sale of the apartment would be the first step toward freeing herself from Dash's control and starting anew. Luke's presence in her life could signify that better days were ahead. As she prepared for bed, Lizette felt a renewed sense of calm. She had faced one of the toughest moments of her life and emerged stronger. Although challenges still lay ahead, she knew she had the strength and support to overcome them. With the apartment sale in motion and the prospect of a future without Dash, Lizette felt more hopeful than ever. She was ready to confront whatever came next, confident that she would ultimately find the happiness and peace she deserved. The sale of the apartment progressed smoothly, and with each passing day, Lizette felt closer to shedding the weight of her failed marriage. Although the pain of Dash's betrayal lingered, the idea of starting anew gave her strength. One morning, while reviewing the final details with her real estate agent, she received a call. "Lizette, it's Luke. Can we meet to discuss the apartment purchase?" Luke's voice carried a warmth that Lizette hadn't heard in a long time, instantly reminding her of the boy she once knew so well. Without hesitation, she accepted the invitation, and they met at a nearby cafe that same afternoon. As she walked in, she saw Luke waiting for her with a smile that immediately put her at ease. "Lizette, it's great to see you after all this time," Luke said, standing to greet her. "Likewise, Luke. Thank you for considering the apartment purchase. I never thought life would bring you into this process. I've always liked this neighborhood, and when I found out you were involved, I knew it was a good opportunity," Luke replied, a sparkle in his eyes that Lizette couldn't help but notice. They sat down and began discussing the transaction details, but soon their conversation shifted to memories of school and old friends. Luke shared stories about his career, his travels, and how he finally decided to settle back in his hometown. Lizette, in turn, spoke about her recent challenges, though she didn't delve too deeply into the specifics about Dash. "It seems we've both had our battles," Luke said empathetically, "but I'm glad to see you moving forward." "It's been tough, but I'm determined to start over," Lizette replied, feeling a genuine connection with Luke. The sale process was completed in the following weeks, and Luke moved into the apartment. To her surprise, he offered Lizette the chance to stay in the half that had belonged to Dash until she found a place of her own. Grateful for his generosity, Lizette accepted. With Luke's support, Lizette began to rebuild her life. She realized she needed more than just a change of scenery. She needed a shift in perspective. She decided to enroll in a business administration course, resuming the studies she had set aside years ago to support Dash's career. Each day, Lisette woke up with renewed determination. In the mornings, she attended classes, and in the afternoons, she worked on various projects she had put on hold. Luke, who lived across the hall, became a constant source of support, always ready to offer words of encouragement or a cup of coffee when she needed it most. One night, after an especially exhausting day, Luke knocked on her door with a bottle of wine. "Care for a break?" he asked with a smile. Lisette accepted the invitation, and they spent the evening talking and laughing like old friends. As the night wore on, Lisette realized how much her life had changed in such a short time. Luke not only provided support, but also companionship that filled the void left by Dash. "Thank you for everything, Luke. I don't know how I would have handled all this without you," Lisette said, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "I'll always be here for you, Lisette. You're an incredible person, and you deserve all the happiness in the world," Luke replied, looking at her with a sincerity that moved her deeply. That night, Lisette went to bed feeling a peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. She knew challenges still lay ahead, but with Luke's support and her own resilience, she felt confident she could overcome any obstacle. With the apartment sale completed and Luke's comforting presence in her life, Lisette felt stronger and more hopeful than ever. She was ready to face the future, certain that she would ultimately find the happiness and stability she deserved. The transition to a new life became increasingly tangible for Lisette. With the apartment sale finalized and Luke as the new owner, the atmosphere in the house shifted dramatically. The previous tensions were replaced by a sense of camaraderie and mutual support. One morning, as Lisette was making coffee in the kitchen, she heard a gentle knock on the door. She opened it to find Luke smiling, holding a folder. "Good morning, Lisette. I thought we could go over some documents related to the house. Is that all right with you?" Lisette nodded and invited him in. They sat at the kitchen table, and as they reviewed the documents, they began discussing their plans and dreams for the future. "I've always wanted a place where I could feel at home," Luke said. "This apartment is perfect, and I'm glad you're here too. How are your studies going?" "They're going well," Lisette replied. "It's challenging, but I love learning and feeling like I'm making progress." "I'm sure you'll do great," Luke said, looking at her with admiration. Weeks turned into months, and Lisette and Luke developed a comfortable routine. They shared dinners, talked about their days, and often took walks together around the neighborhood. Their connection deepened, and Lisette began to realize that there was something more than just friendship in her relationship with Luke. One Friday night, after a long week of classes and work, Luke suggested they go out to dinner. They chose a small Italian restaurant on the corner, a cozy place with warm lights and soft music. "This place is lovely," Lisette said as they sat down. "Thank you for bringing me here." "It's my pleasure, Lisette. I wanted to do something special for you," Luke responded with a smile that made her heart race. During dinner, the conversation flowed easily. They talked about their dreams, fears, and hopes for the future. Luke listened to her with an attention that Lisette hadn't experienced in years. "You're an amazing woman, Lisette. Everything you've been through and how you've handled it is admirable," Luke said, looking into her eyes. Lisette felt warmth in her chest, a mix of gratitude and something deeper. "Thank you, Luke. I don't know what I would have done without your support. You've been my rock during these tough times." After dinner, they walked back to the apartment under the moonlight. Luke took Lisette's hand and she didn't pull away. There was something magical about that moment, a promise of a future filled with hope and love. When they reached her apartment door, Luke turned to Lisette. "Lisette, there's something I need to tell you," he said, his voice sincere. "I've loved you since we were young, and those feelings never went away. Being with you these past few months has been incredible, and I want you to know that I'm here for you, not just as a friend, but as someone who loves you deeply." Lisette felt tears of emotion welling in her eyes. Luke's words were like a balm for her wounded soul. "Luke, I don't know what to say. I felt something special between us too. You've brought so much joy and hope into my life. I think I've started to love you." Luke smiled and slowly leaned in, sealing his words with a tender kiss full of promises. In that moment, Lisette knew she had found a new beginning, one filled with love and possibilities. To move forward, you need to confront your mistakes and understand why you made certain decisions, the therapist said calmly. This won't be easy, but it's essential for your recovery. Nodded, feeling the weight of his actions on his shoulders. I've lost everything that mattered to me. I don't know where to start. The first step is to forgive yourself and understand that you can change. Redemption is possible if you're willing to work on it, the therapist replied. The sessions continued, and gradually, began to see small changes in his life. He started recognizing the destructive patterns in his behavior and worked to change them. Although the road to redemption was long and difficult, felt more determined than ever to become a better person. Meanwhile, Lisette and Luke continued with their lives. The coffee and letters shop thrived, and their relationship grew stronger every day. However, Lisette wasn't oblivious to Dash's struggles. Through mutual friends, she learned about his fight and the efforts he was making to change. One day, while organizing some books in the store, Lisette received an unexpected visit. It was Dash with an expression that showed a mix of remorse and humility. "Lisette, I know I'm the last person you want to see, but I needed to talk to you," Dash said, his voice trembling. Lisette looked at him, surprised by his presence but also curious about what he had to say. "What do you need?" "I've made many mistakes, Lisette. I've done unforgivable things and I'm working to change. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything." Lisette felt a wave of emotions. Although the pain of his betrayal still lingered, she recognized the courage it took for Dash to face his mistakes and seek redemption. "I appreciate you coming to tell me this, Dash. I know it hasn't been easy for either of us. I hope you find the peace and path you're looking for," Lisette responded sincerely. Dash nodded, grateful for her words. "Thank you, Lisette. I wish you all the best in your new life." As Dash walked away, Lisette felt a sense of closure and release. Although her past with Dash had been painful, she was now in a place where she could look to the future with hope and without resentment. That night, while sharing a quiet dinner with Luke, Lisette realized how far she had come. She had overcome adversities and found a new life filled with love and purpose. Though the journey had been tough, every step had led her to where she needed to be. With the past finally in the rearview mirror, Lisette focused on the present and the future. The coffee and letters shop not only prospered, but had become a gathering place for the community, a refuge where people could enjoy a good book and a cup of coffee in a cozy atmosphere. One afternoon, while Lisette was organizing the bookshelves, she received an unexpected call. It was from the university. "Hey, remember where she had to drop out of college years ago? Well, guess what? The administrator just told her she's getting a scholarship. They said it's because she's been doing so well in school and she's always working hard." Lisette was totally surprised and excited. She's always wanted to go back to school, but life got in the way. Now she can finally finish her degree in business administration. She told Luke the news that night, and he was so proud of her. He even offered to work extra hours at the shop so she could focus on her studies. The first few weeks of school were tough, but Lisette was also really happy to be back. She loves being around the other students and the professors, and she's learning so much new stuff. "I've always wanted a place where I could feel at home," Luke said. "This apartment feels just right, and I'm really glad you're here too. How are your studies going?" "They're going well," Lisette replied, a smile creeping onto her face. "It's challenging, but I love the learning process and seeing my progress." "I know you'll excel," Luke said, admiration shining in his eyes. As weeks turned into months, Lisette and Luke established a comfortable rhythm. They enjoyed dinners together, shared stories about their days, and often wandered through the neighborhood. Their bond deepened, and Lisette began to feel that their relationship was evolving beyond mere friendship. One Friday night, after a particularly exhausting week, Luke suggested they treat themselves to dinner. They settled on a quaint Italian restaurant nearby, its warm lighting and soft music creating an inviting atmosphere. "This place is charming," Lisette said, settling into her seat. "Thank you for bringing me here." "Of course, I wanted to make tonight special for you," Luke replied, his smile making her heart flutter. Over dinner, their conversation flowed effortlessly. They spoke of dreams, fears, and aspirations, and Luke listened with a depth of attention Lisette hadn't felt in a long time. "Have you ever thought about what it would be like to pursue our dreams together?" Luke asked, leaning in, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Lisette felt her heart race. "I think about it often. It's daunting but also thrilling." Luke gently took her hand, their fingers brushing together. "Why not embrace that thrill? I believe we can create something wonderful together." In that moment, Lisette felt a surge of warmth and excitement. She realized that no matter where life took them, she wanted Luke by her side, exploring all the possibilities ahead. "Let me know if you'd like any changes." The sun set in a sky painted with warm colors as Lisette and Luke closed the doors of Coffee and Letters after another successful day. The little shop had blossomed into a vibrant meeting place for the community. That night, however, was different from any other. Luke had something special planned. "Lisette, would you like to go for a walk?" Luke asked, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Intrigued, Lisette accepted with a smile. They walked together, hand in hand, as the cool night air enveloped them. Luke led her to a nearby small park, a quiet place where they often stopped to chat after a long day. "It's beautiful here," Lisette said, taking a deep breath and savoring the moment. "Yes, it is," Luke replied, stopping under an old oak tree that had witnessed countless seasons and changes. Luke turned to Lisette, and she could see the love and admiration in his eyes. Lisette felt her heart race with a mix of excitement and anticipation as she saw the nervousness and determination in Luke's eyes. From the moment they reconnected, she knew their friendship was blossoming into something deeper, something truly special. They had shared so much, overcome obstacles together, and every day with him felt like a gift. "Luke, she began, but before she could express her feelings, he knelt before her, a small velvet box in his hand. He opened it, revealing a beautiful ring that sparkled in the soft glow of the park lights. "Lisette," he said, his voice filled with emotion, "I love you more than words can say. You are my partner, my best friend, the love of my life. I can't imagine my life without you. Without you, my life would be incomplete. Will you marry me?" Tears welled up in Lisette's eyes as she gazed at Luke, her heart overflowing with love and happiness. Without a moment's hesitation, she nodded, her voice trembling but firm. "Yes, Luke, yes, I will marry you." Luke stood up and embraced her tightly. When they finally parted, he gently slipped the ring onto her finger. It was a perfect moment, one they both knew they would cherish forever. The news of their engagement spread quickly, and their friends and family joined them in celebration. The small shop, once filled with the aroma of coffee and the rustle of pages, now echoed with laughter and congratulations, with toasts to the couple's love and future happiness. But Lisette and Luke didn't stop there. With their engagement sealed, they decided to take their passion and determination to new heights. Inspired by their success with Coffee and Letters, they began. "Forgiveness is a process, the therapist reassured him. "It won't happen overnight, but it's essential for your healing. You should also consider apologizing to those you've hurt." They worked tirelessly, dedicating hours to planning and executing their vision. Luke handled the negotiations and finances, while Lisette focused on the design and book selection. Every step they took together brought them closer to their shared dreams. The opening of their second store was an exciting event, a testament to their love, dedication, and shared passion for books, coffee, and creating spaces where people could connect. The community embraced their second Coffee and Letters with open arms. Lisette and Luke were overwhelmed by the positive response, feeling incredibly grateful for the outpouring of support. It fueled their determination to keep growing, both personally and professionally. Their relationship deepened, weathering every challenge and celebrating each victory with unwavering love and resilience. They were committed not only to their burgeoning business, but also to the life they were building together, brick by brick, dream by dream. One evening, as they closed up their new shop, Lisette turned to Luke, her eyes sparkling with love and satisfaction. "I can't believe everything we've accomplished together," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "And this is just the beginning." Luke smiled, pulling her close. "Together, Lisette, there are no limits to what we can do." He sealed his words with a soft kiss. Lisette felt a wave of happiness wash over her. Her life with Luke was a testament to the power of love, resilience, and forgiveness. Together, they had overcome adversity, built a beautiful life, and were striding confidently toward a bright future. Every day was a new opportunity, and with Luke by her side, she knew anything was possible. As the stars twinkled above them, Lisette and Luke walked hand in hand, their love and shared dreams illuminating their path. Meanwhile, Dash was grappling with the consequences of his past actions. Laura's departure had left an aching void, and his attempts to fill it only led him down a spiral of self-destruction. The once vibrant apartment felt empty and suffocating, his nights haunted by loneliness and regret. His work performance plummeted, financial worries mounted, and his colleagues watched with concern as he drifted further into despair. Finally, after weeks of battling his inner demons, Dash sought professional help. He enrolled in an intensive therapy program, determined to confront his mistakes and embark on the arduous journey of redemption. The initial therapy sessions were agonizing. Dash had to acknowledge his destructive patterns, confront his buried emotions, and face the pain he had inflicted on others. His therapist, a patient and insightful man, gently guided him through the process. "Dash, the first step towards recovery is forgiveness," the therapist explained during a particularly emotional session. "You need to forgive yourself for your past mistakes and understand that you have the power to change." "I don't know if I can ever forgive myself for what I did to Lisette," Dash confessed, tears streaming down his face. "She didn't deserve any of it." "Forgiveness is a process, Dash," the therapist reassured him. "It won't happen overnight, but it's essential for your healing. You should also consider apologizing to those you've hurt." The therapist's words resonated deeply. Dash knew that apologizing to Lisette was crucial for his own recovery, even if she never forgave him. He needed to do it to prove to himself that he was truly changing. Lisette and Luke's lives continued to blossom. The expansion of Coffee and Letters was a resounding success, and they were even contemplating opening a third store. Their love story was an inspiration to everyone around them, a beacon of happiness and shared dreams. One afternoon, while Lisette was arranging books, she received an unexpected call. "Lisette, it's Dash," the voice on the other end said, laced with sincerity and regret. "Can we talk? There's something important I need to say." Lisette hesitated, then agreed. She knew this conversation was necessary to finally close a painful chapter in her life. They met in a nearby park, a neutral space where they could talk openly. Dash arrived first, his nervousness palpable. When Lisette approached, she saw the remorse etched on his face. "Thank you for coming, Lisette," Dash began, his voice trembling. "I know I'm the last person you want to see, but I need to apologize." "I'm here, Dash. Tell me what you need to say," Lisette replied, striving for composure. "I've been in therapy trying to rebuild my life," Dash explained, his eyes filled with tears. "I've recognized all the mistakes I made, and I realize how much I hurt you. I can't change the past, but I want to sincerely apologize. I'm so sorry for everything I put you through." Lisette looked at him, a mix of compassion and relief flooding her heart. Dash's apology was a form of closure, a confirmation that she had made the right decision to move on. I appreciate you coming to say this, Dash, she responded sincerely. It was a difficult time for both of us, but I've found peace and happiness. I wish you the best on your path to recovery. Dash nodded, relieved. Thank you, Lizette. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me someday. Lizette said goodbye to Dash, a sense of finality washing over her. As she walked back to coffee and letters, a wave of peace and clarity settled in her heart. That night, she recounted the encounter to Luke, who listened with unwavering support. I'm proud of you, Liz, Luke said, embracing her. You've shown incredible strength throughout all of this. Thank you, Luke, Lizette replied, feeling safe and loved in his arms. Having you by my side makes everything easier. I'm ready to move forward and embrace all that life has to offer. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Lizette and Luke sat in their garden, their hearts filled with hope and determination. They knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, their love would guide them through. The months flew by in a flurry of activity and joy. Coffee and Letters had become a beloved community hub, and their expansion plans were unfolding smoothly. Their relationship deepened with each passing day, a testament to their love and mutual support. One evening, while planning a special event at their second store, they decided to invite their loyal customers and friends to celebrate their success. The night was filled with live music, poetry readings, and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. The store, adorned with soft lights and fragrant flowers, buzzed with laughter and conversation. Lizette and Luke, beaming with pride, moved through the crowd, ensuring everyone felt welcome. As the night progressed, Lizette went to fetch more supplies from the back room. Suddenly, she found herself face to face with Dash. The unexpected encounter left her speechless. Dash, looking uncomfortable, broke the silence. Lizette, I didn't expect to see you here, he stammered, his nervousness evident. Neither did I, Dash, Lizette replied, regaining her composure. What are you doing here? She couldn't deny a flicker of apprehension. She had no issue with Dash attending the event, but his sudden appearance stirred up unwanted anxieties. I came to check out the event, Dash explained, trying to appear casual. I've heard great things about your store and wanted to see it for myself. Lizette nodded, still slightly uneasy. Well, I hope you enjoy the event. Luke and I have worked hard to get here. She glanced towards Luke, who, sensing the tension, was making his way towards them. Hello, Dash, how's it going? Luke greeted him with a polite but firm smile, taking Lizette's hand in a gesture of support. Congratulations. It's impressive what you two have accomplished, Dash responded. Thank you, Luke nodded. It's been an incredible journey, and we're very proud of what we've built together. An awkward silence fell over them, and Dash eventually excused himself to explore the store. Lizette and Luke remained close, processing the unexpected encounter. Are you okay? Luke asked, his eyes filled with concern. Yes, it was just a bit unexpected, Lizette reassured him. But I'm fine, we have so much to be happy about, and I won't let this affect us. The night continued without further incident, a resounding success. Lizette felt a surge of pride in their accomplishments. Despite the surprise encounter with Dash, she realized how far she had come, overcoming adversity to build a life filled with love and purpose alongside Luke. As the last guest departed, Lizette and Luke stepped onto the terrace, basking in the tranquility of the night. Today was an amazing night, despite the surprise. Lizette sighed, leaning her head against Luke's shoulder. It was, Luke agreed. I'm so proud of you, Lizette. You handled everything with grace and strength. Thank you, Luke. Having you by my side makes everything easier. No matter what happens, I know we can face it together. That night, as Lizette drifted off to sleep in Luke's embrace, she reflected on her journey. She had faced challenges, overcome heartbreak, and found true love. Despite the trials of the past, she knew her future with Luke would be filled with happiness. With Luke by her side, she felt secure and confident, ready to face whatever life threw their way. Meanwhile, Dash found himself spiraling downwards. Despite his efforts in therapy, the weight of his past decisions continued to haunt him. He felt like his life had crumbled, and although he sought help, the results weren't what he'd hoped for. Therapy had unearthed his deepest insecurities and regrets, but instead of finding peace, he felt increasingly lost. Confronting his mistakes and accepting responsibility proved more difficult than he imagined. He often fell into destructive thought patterns, consumed by guilt, shame, and a growing resentment towards Lisette and Luke. Seeing them happy and successful at the event had ignited a spark of jealousy within him. Despite his attempts to change, Dash couldn't shake the feeling that everything he had lost was now someone else's gain. This resentment began to consume him, and therapy, instead of calming his anxieties, seemed to fuel his desire for revenge. One afternoon, after a particularly intense session, Dash left the therapist's office in turmoil. He wandered aimlessly through the city, his thoughts fixated on Lisette and Luke. It wasn't fair, he thought, that they should enjoy happiness while he suffered. In his disturbed state of mind, a plan began to form. If he couldn't find peace, he could at least ensure they didn't either. The idea of revenge, though irrational, offered him a twisted sense of purpose. He began to monitor Lisette and Luke's movements, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. He wanted them to feel a fraction of the pain he was experiencing. One day, while observing the store from afar, he saw Luke leave alone. Seizing the opportunity, Dash entered coffee and letters, feigning interest as a customer. Lisette, though surprised to see him, remained calm. "Hello, Dash, do you need anything?" she asked. "I just wanted to see how you were, Lisette," Dash replied, his tone laced with a mix of sincerity and malice. "Sometimes I wonder how things would have been if they had turned out differently." Lisette met his gaze, trying to discern his intentions. "Things are as they are, Dash. We've moved on. I hope you can find the peace you're looking for, too." Dash offered a hollow smile. "Yes, I hope so. But sometimes finding peace means settling some old scores." Before Lisette could respond, Luke returned, his expression hardening at the sight of Dash. "What's going on here?" he asked, protectively standing beside Lisette. "Nothing. Just having a conversation with Lisette," Dash said, raising his hands in a gesture of feigned innocence. "I think it's best if you leave, Dash," Luke stated firmly. "You have no business here." Dash glared at Luke, his resentment palpable, but eventually turned and left the store. As he walked away, his thoughts darkened, his desire for revenge intensifying. He knew his next move needed to be more calculated, more impactful. That night, Lisette and Luke discussed the encounter. Lisette couldn't hide her worry, but Luke reassured her, promising to shield them from Dash's negativity. "We're not going to let this affect us, Lisette," Luke said, holding her close. "We've worked too hard to get here. We're not going to let his resentment destroy us." Lisette nodded, grateful for Luke's unwavering support. She knew that no matter what challenges arose, they would face them together. Meanwhile, Dash descended further into darkness. His desire for revenge became an obsession. He knew he was treading a dangerous path, but he couldn't stop himself. He felt that the only way to find relief was to make Lisette and Luke pay for their happiness. His mind, twisted by resentment and despair, began to plot his next move. He knew revenge wouldn't bring him peace, but in his current state, logic and reason had been replaced by an insatiable need to inflict pain. And so while Lisette and Luke's lives continued to blossom with love and success, a shadow loomed over them, threatening to test the strength of their bond and the resilience of their spirits. The sun shone brightly, a perfect day for Lisette and Luke's wedding. They had planned this moment meticulously, ensuring every detail reflected their love and commitment. The ceremony was set to take place in a picturesque garden, surrounded by blooming flowers and ancient trees, a symbol of the enduring beauty of their love. Guests arrived, filling the air with laughter and joyful anticipation. Family and friends gathered to celebrate the union of two people who had overcome adversity to find each other. In her room, Lisette gazed at her reflection, a mix of nerves and excitement bubbling within her. Her wedding dress, simple yet elegant, accentuated her natural beauty. Sully, her maid of honor and steadfast friend, stood by her side, offering calming reassurance. "Lisette, you look beautiful," Sully smiled. "Today is your day. Enjoy it to the fullest." Lisette took a deep breath, nodding in agreement. "Thank you, Sully. I couldn't have made it here without your support." Meanwhile, Luke, dressed in a classic suit, waited with anticipation. This was the officiant began to speak, his words filled with hope and promise, painting a picture of a love that would endure. Everything seemed perfect, the air thick with joy and anticipation, until a sudden commotion disrupted the serenity. Dash, uninvited and with a defiant expression, pushed his way through the stunned guests marching towards the altar. "Stop this wedding!" he shouted, his voice cutting through the silence. Lisette and Luke exchanged a look of surprise and concern. Dash, visibly agitated, stood before them, his gaze fixed on Lisette. "Lisette, how can you marry him after everything we've been through?" he demanded, his voice raw with resentment. "Everyone here needs to know the truth about her." A heavy silence fell over the crowd. Lisette felt a wave of emotions wash over her, anger, confusion, and a touch of fear. But before she could respond, Luke stepped forward, shielding her from Dash's accusations. "Dash, this is a day of love and celebration," Luke said, his voice firm but controlled. "You have no right to be here, to ruin this moment for us." Dash let out a bitter laugh. "Love? Celebration? Lisette, do you really think you can start anew without facing what you did?" Taking a deep breath, Lisette decided to confront him head-on. She stepped forward, her voice resonating with calm and clarity. "Dash, I've faced my mistakes and worked hard to overcome my past. Today I'm here to celebrate a new beginning, not just for myself, but for Luke and everyone who loves us. You cannot change who we are or what we've built together." The guests watched in captivated silence, the tension palpable. Lisette turned to Luke, taking his hand, and then looked back at Dash. "I forgive you, Dash, not for you but for myself. I will not allow resentment and bitterness to control my life. Today is a day of love and hope, and I won't let you ruin it." Dash, taken aback by her response, was speechless. The strength and peace radiating from Lisette were undeniable. A murmur of approval and support rippled through the guests. Finally, Lisette's father and some of Luke's friends approached Dash, making it clear he was no longer welcome. Defeated and out of arguments, Dash turned and walked away, his figure fading into the distance. The officiant, recovering from the interruption, continued the ceremony. True love is not just a feeling but a commitment to facing any obstacle together. Lisette and Luke, today we have witnessed your strength and unbreakable bond. Vows were exchanged, and when they finally kissed, applause and cheers erupted, filling the air with joy. Lisette and Luke knew they had overcome a difficult test, their love emerging even stronger. The reception was a joyous celebration. Guests danced and laughed, and Lisette and Luke shared special moments with everyone who had been a part of their journey. That night, under a canopy of stars, Lisette looked at Luke with gratitude and love. "Today has been an incredible day," she said, resting her head on his shoulder. "Despite everything, I'm more certain than ever that we are meant to be together." "And we will always be together," Luke replied, kissing her gently. "Facing whatever comes because our love is strong and true." Lisette smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace. With Luke by her side, she could face any challenge. They had overcome so much and were ready to build a future filled with love, hope, and happiness. The road ahead would be bright, and with every step Lisette and Luke knew they were destined for a love that would withstand any storm. And so, with the future stretching out before them like an endless horizon, Lisette and Luke moved forward, building a life of love, hope, and success, confident that no matter what happened, they would always have each other. Their wedding marked a new beginning, not only for them but for everyone who had witnessed their journey. Life moved forward, a tapestry of challenges and joys, and the couple faced it all hand in hand. After the wedding, Lisette and Luke poured their energy into their personal and professional endeavors. Coffee and letters continued to flourish, expanding to new cities, each store carrying the same warm and welcoming essence. Lisette, with her business degree finally completed, took on a more strategic role in managing their growing empire. Her passion for books and coffee remained at the heart of every store, her creativity and intelligence making her a respected leader. Luke, always by her side, handled operations and finances, ensuring each new store ran smoothly. Together they were an unstoppable team, complementing and supporting each other through every challenge. A year later, Lisette and Luke welcomed their son Matthew into the world. The news of Lisette's pregnancy had filled their lives with joy and anticipation, and they embraced parenthood with open arms. Family became their world, and Lisette and Luke cherished every milestone, from Matthew's first smiles to his first steps. Meanwhile, Dash continued his journey towards redemption. The incident at the wedding had been a turning point, a catalyst for real change. He recognized his need for revenge stemmed from his own despair and redoubled his commitment to therapy. Slowly, Dash began to find a new perspective. He reconnected with supportive friends and family, and although the road was arduous, every step forward was a testament to his determination to become a better person. He eventually moved to a new city for a fresh start, finding a job he was passionate about and building a life based on honesty and respect. He knew the past couldn't be erased, but he learned to accept it and look to the future with hope. Back in their hometown, Lisette and Luke continued their life filled with love and purpose. Coffee and letters remained a special place, a constant reminder of what they had built together. They were respected and loved by the community, not just for their professional success, but for their warmth and generosity. Lisette, Luke, and Matthew were a happy and united family, their home built on love, perseverance, and mutual support. Lisette never forgot the challenges she had faced, but she saw them as lessons that led her to the fulfilling life she now enjoyed. One day, while strolling through the park with Matthew, Luke stopped and looked at Lisette with a smile. "Do you realize everything we've accomplished together?" he asked, holding Matthew's hand as their son took his first steps. "Yes," Lisette replied, her face radiant. "And I wouldn't change a thing about our journey. Every difficult moment, every obstacle, has brought us to this place of love and happiness." Luke kissed her gently, and together they watched their son explore the world with curiosity and excitement. They knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together, with the same love and strength they had shown from the beginning. Life was a continuous journey, filled with moments of both joy and trial. But Lisette and Luke were ready for anything. They had found in each other a true partner, a love that supported and inspired them to be better every day. And so, with the future stretching out before them like an endless horizon, Lisette and Luke moved forward, building a life of love, hope, and success, confident that no matter what happened, they would always have each other.